Leslie, thank you so much for helping me with this demonstration video, which we'll pretend is a real counselling session. And I will use the web app on Erikson's life stages as we've agreed. So the first thing I would do, because I'll leave out the preamble that I would with a client, and I've gone to my apps and I'm now ready to start using the Erikson's life stages with you. Okay. Leslie, what we're going to do is look at the different stages of your life. And you can see there it starts at infancy from 0 till 2, going right through in different stages to over 65. And what we're going to have a look at is for you to explore how you think life was for you at each of these stages. And I'll show you what happens when I click on it. A bar appears. And at the top it says, I am safe and cared for, and that's the word trust in green. And underneath, I am not safe, I'm not cared for, and mistrust. So if you felt that you were absolutely safe and cared for, you would make that full, and there'd be no red. If you thought it was a bit 50-50, you could slide them up and down like this. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to ask you is, would you like me to do the sliding for you, or would you like to do it yourself? Because I can give you control if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, shall I take control? Yeah.
So if you slide your mouse up to the top of the screen, it should say request control.
I request remote control. Yeah, got that.
Yeah, and you click on that and I then give you approval. So talk to me about infancy. What was your life like between the ages of 0 and 2?
When we were 6 months old, we all moved to Malta.
Yeah.
The eldest brother, who is about 11 years older than me and my twin, because I am a twin, so this is quite connected. He didn't come with us because he went to boarding school. So we actually lost one of our family, in a sense. But the rest of us, because we were 6 children, the rest of us all went to Malta.
That's a big family.
It is a big family.
And you're a twin.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just focusing on you now. What is your sense whether this was the time when you felt safe and cared for, a basic foundation of trust, or whether there was anything that was a bit different from that? Move the bars up and down and see what feels right.
Okay, well, although we were little, I think there would have been a little bit of mistrust about where is my brother. And I've not thought of that before. You know, someone's missing.
You'd not thought of that before?
No, but I guess, you know, when we were just talking about it, I felt a sense of panic. He's not there. Okay, so I'm going to move trust up because I'd say that was very high because we actually made some connections with some Maltese ladies who were basically the people that mum had to come in and help her manage. Dad was in the RAF, so you had support for being an RAF wife, especially with so many children. I think that's where faith started because these 2 women are Catholics. Malta felt a lovely place, very safe. You know, a lot of trust there.
So trust is quite high. We've got a green line going quite high there. You'll see the words core attachment there, Leslie. And attachment is about feeling safe and cared for. And when we go right back to that stage of your life, it is something at your foundational core that you had plenty of trust. And that can encourage us that you had a good start. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, good. Early childhood, 2 to 4, I put holding on and letting go because it's everything from basically potty training to exploring what is becoming your own autonomy as emerging into yourself, your true self. Now, I'm interested in this because you're a twin. That's an interesting thing. But this is totally about you and how you were emerging, beginning to develop, not as a baby anymore, but as a toddler. Just go with your feelings. You'll find if you click onto the grey bit, the bars will appear. So the top one says autonomy. I can make my own decisions. I can try. And doubt and shame. I get it wrong, there's something wrong with me. I want to say something at this point, Leslie. If at any stage the wording is not quite right, you can edit it. You can click on the box and you can change it to something that fits a bit better.
It's very tempting to change me to us.
Interesting.
I don't think I've had true autonomy till much later in life. Talking about separation from twin. My twin was my core attachment person, as I'm realizing now. Because if anything happened, if we were on a boat in Malta and it got choppy and people sort of reached for us to hold on to us, they didn't need to because we'd be holding on to each other. This is interesting because we came back to England. We were about 2.5. I'm going to put autonomy high because I'm going to see it as an individual thing. We went to our first little nursery school and we found out that everybody had a really good birthday. They got to hand out the toys. They got to have happy birthday sung to them. So we lied and we told the teacher that it was our birthday. She told my mum off. You didn't tell me it was the twins' birthday. And straight away, in comes a bit of shame.
Yeah.
Got mum into trouble. Maybe that's a bit too high. But I would certainly say that we got it wrong. I got it wrong. Maybe it was, my sister's idea. And I just went along with it because that was quite a lot of our dynamic. And for us, getting mum in trouble was wrong.
Your sister took the lead and you followed.
I think that's where some seed was sown about mum, taking care of mum.
Forgive me if we move a little faster than I normally would for the demonstration. We've now reached a stage called middle childhood, which is around 5 to 6. And this is about exploring. Efficacy means I can make things happen. I can impose my will so that people do what I want. So let's see what the two poles are. So when you click on there, I can explore and make things happen. That's initiative. But guilt down the bottom. I upset people. I fail. I don't want to try. Remember, you can edit any of these.
This is when we started infant school proper. Yeah, I think this is a really defining part because this is where, because we were very identical, we had, it's just like a red ribbon, really. We used to call it, like a sash. And one of us used to wear it across our uniform because we had little uniforms and the other one didn't. We used to swap the sash and confuse the teacher. They used to have star charts on the wall that if you did a good job or if you behaved yourself, you'd get a star. And I can remember one time we'd swap the sash. I'd got a star and my twin took it and put it on the board. So that felt horrendous to me because she tended to get more stars than I did.
She stole it?
Well, yes. She was moving up into a little hierarchy group of the clever children. And I think I just stood and watched and I don't want to try. What's the point? She gets the stars, even when I get them. I don't think the same was for home because different experience with family, but school definitely was a big red for me.
And this is helpful because you can see that both the lines apply, that you can be unhappy in one situation and happy in another, or safe or secure or whatever language you want to use. So that was quite a pivotal moment for you. And the message, I don't want to try, because even when you win a star, she'll take it off me.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, Leslie. So what happens as you get a bit older? The late childhood is 7 to 11.
To put it in context, we went to 5 schools before senior school. So this covers, so there's a chop and change between as well. This period covers 2 schools, one in Norfolk and one in Shropshire. I mean, one thing I haven't covered is the fact that we would make friends and then really not with much notice to us, we'd be moving on. That's always been quite difficult. The memories of Norfolk were really good and I loved it. I didn't feel inferior. Dad was quite high up by then. He was 3rd in command, but we would play with everybody across the whole camp. The school in Shropshire, they were trialling something that other schools didn't do. And there was so much autonomy over our own learning. It actually built in that self-worth and competence in you. And we passed our 11 plus. This part of my life was quite a good time.
We're moving now into early adolescence. Things are changing. We recycle around this time, and it's very much about trust and autonomy again. But here we've got early adolescence, 12 to 18, group identity. I fit in well with groups. I socialize and have friends. And alienation, I don't fit in. I don't know where I belong. What happens to you when you think about that stage?
For 5 years, we went to a boarding school, but it was a house for about 47 people who were forces children or farming children. We were in dorms with 12 or 13 girls. And so we were in that group identity. That's your year. That's your pact. That's very, very high. It wasn't easy, but it was fun for most of the time. Well, I was friends with one girl. We connected, but she was like the parent and I was the child. Now I know it wasn't really a healthy relationship. After a couple of years, she decided she didn't want to be my friends. I then got to be somebody else's friend. And again, they weren't really a good fit with me. And I just did it.
It almost sounds like you were picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped, and you didn't really have much say in the matter.
I didn't. That's exactly how it felt, Pauline, to be quite honest. And I think the first drop came with my twin, and then I had these two in school.
Can I be curious, did you still look alike, or were you refashioning yourself so that you looked more different in teenage?
We were refashioning ourselves because we got to choose our clothes and we didn't wear the same anymore. We'd stopped that. Different haircuts, different friends, different way of doing things. So absolutely.
Let's move on to what's now called adolescence, going on to 18 to 25. And this is really a time when one would hope that a core sense of self has been built and a true identity. I know who I am. Identity at the top says I am comfortable with who I am my true self. And down the bottom is role confusion. I don't know who I am or what I should be doing.
Okay, so this was a really big part of my life because this is actually the years in which I went from very naive to married. So I was married at 21. I started working at 18. I didn't tell people I was a twin, and she didn't either. Here is where I learned how not to be a twin. I was good at work. I had my identity there. But in my marriage, my husband was 5 years older than me. He was a nice man, but it felt more like a parent-child relationship.
Now that has echoes for me, because back at school, I'm thinking of the friend who had a parent-child relationship with you. And back down in the early years, I sense that your sister was the leader. Can you see that pattern as well?
Yeah. Do you know what, Pauline, you're so right, because he asked me to marry him after I'd known him for a month. And I kept saying, no, yes, no, yes. And then in the end, I said, look, let's just move in together. And then after a year, I thought, this is all right. So I didn't really make a decision as an adult. No.
So we're moving now into 25 to 40. And this has been called a stage of intimacy. And for me, that means into me see. And looking at the top, I can form and commit to deep relationships, and isolation at the bottom. I don't want to let people in, and I'm lonely. And again, always with all of these things, if there's a slightly different wording you'd like, you can edit.
I definitely think I don't want to let people in is a coping mechanism for all the moving. Don't get too close to people. I felt very lonely in my marriage. I really don't think I knew how to do intimacy. So I'm going to make that quite high.
Yeah.
Real intimacy. Having said that, in church life, you do make connections with people. And it was the longest time I've ever lived in one part of the world. So all the moving stopped, a real lack of intimacy. But with one or two people, I could be really honest.
Now, I don't actually know how old you are, Leslie, so you're going to have to direct me how far we go. I'm pretty certain you're not 65 plus.
So I'm actually 60 this year.
Okay, this is an interesting life stage. At the top, we've got productivity. I am building for the future, for work and family. And at the bottom, we've got I'm going nowhere. This is stagnating. My life has little meaning. So where does that take you?
Feels quite emotional. This is where I can go back to my beginning and say, this is where I found out who I am, that I am capable, that I don't need to not try. It's where I decided to become a counsellor. So at 49, I started training. It's where intimacy really came in because you learn how to be so more intimate in training and with your colleagues. And I think writing the journal and just pouring everything out. My productivity on myself was very high. I also actually got the first job that I actually decided I wanted to do because
Mm.
everything else I'd fallen into. This is about me now, and here I am. While there were moments of stagnation, obviously because my marriage broke down, but I don't feel like that was stagnation. I think that was actually, I'm doing something about this now. I'm not having this anymore. So I don't
Wow.
really want to put any red there. I think this is very high productivity for me. In fact, I'm going to put that right at the top.
Leslie, that's so precious what you've shared with us and so enormously helpful. As you look at that and just scan your life, as it were, just see what thoughts and feelings might come up.
It's interesting, isn't it? Looking at the pattern, how it goes down and dips up and then
Mm.
dips down again. I don't want to look at the red,
You
but the
don't
red
want to
isn't,
look at the red.
it's not
No.
too bad. I've got more green than red. That makes me feel a bit better.
And
Yeah.
you felt the emotion of where you have arrived. None of this is wasted in a way because it all has informed who you are and given you some extraordinary insight. I have been really interested in terms of your relationship with your sister and the moving in and out of that. It sounded like, in a sense, you quite lost yourself originally, but I saw an increasing finding of yourself, which is like a coming home in this final stage. You've had to overcome a lot of things like the constant moving around in the forces, which happens, not being able to really make committed friendships because you'd been moving quite soon. You've been really honest about some of the things that were difficult. I just want to say a huge thank you for doing this with us today.
So I found it very easy. Focusing on each section is really helpful. It's like the timeline, isn't it? It really does allow things to pop up. So yeah, I found the app really easy. If we were working longer, Pauline, I probably would go along and maybe change a few words, but they all felt like the right words for today.
What did it feel like being able to have the two colours to look at the different aspects?
That to me is very important because it's balance. So for me, I think it's vital that I have both sides and I acknowledge both sides. When you said about it, I wanted to explore what the experience of was moving and moving and moving.
Yes. Yeah.
That's worked really well.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.